Welcome back to the coverage of YCS London 2014. So far, the largest YCS of the year. My name is Oliver German. I'm joined by Matt, but he's currently on a short break. He's going to be back with us in just a second. We got another exciting match, and after that last match, which was such a thriller, he has to take a short break. Well, who do we have now? We just had Sascha Fabian going up against Oliver Lukenda in an all-German affair in the quarterfinals, excuse me. And now we got a much more international match between Marcello Barberi on the left-hand side and Ruben Lima on the right-hand side. It's going to be Italy versus Spain. And both of these players, or not both of these players, Marcello is playing Shaddoll. It's the most successful deck. Looking at YCS Madrid, the last event that we had just 6 weeks ago, and it's been putting up strong numbers this weekend. It's been the most popular deck at the start of the tournament with like 25% of the field, all being Shaddoll. At the end of day one, for day two, they upped the numbers. 25% was just Shaddoll Artifact and other builds of Shaddoll, because there are so many ways to build this deck with Shaddoll and Chaos, Shaddoll and Artifacts, Shaddoll without anything else, because there are so many good Shaddoll cards indeed. If you count them all together, you had roughly 50% of the field. And this number still kept increasing for the top 16, the top 32, and so on. Ruben is playing Burning Abyss, the other big deck that has been improving their numbers, one of the very few decks that have been improving numbers. And we've had him on the stream earlier on, and he was able to put up quite a commanding victory. So we wouldn't be surprised to see him advance to the finals now. So this is where it counts the most for these two guys. We now take you over to the table where both of these players have already sat down. So as you can see on the right-hand side of your screen in just a second, we will have all the information about all the cards that these guys have been drawing into and that they have on the field. I'm now joined by Matt again. And we already know that Marcello has drawn into a pretty good opening, or not so good opening. I want to take that back, please. He's got Sinister Shadow Games, Shaddoll Core, Artifact Moraltach, Mathematician, and Shaddoll Fusion.
You can make that work. The Mathematician can send the Shaddoll Falco to the graveyard, which can then come back, and then he has the Sinister Shadow Games, send Beast to the graveyard, flip up the Falco, get back the Beast. So, you know, he can make some plays off of that. Ruben, we do have another Burning Abyss deck still in the top four.
I was surprised to see that as well. So Ruben is kicking things off instead of Marcello. This is his hand. He also had a Foolish Burial, which he activated right away, triggering the effect of his Burning Abyss monster. And pretty good opening for him, isn't it?
Yeah, it seems like he can just. That seems pretty reasonable for him.
There's the Upstart Goblin card we have been talking about a little bit earlier. Interesting thing is, it doesn't do much. It just says draw one card, your opponent gains 1,000 life points. The interesting thing that we have been talking about earlier was, when do you activate it exactly? In most of the cases, you first want to thin out your deck with an effect like Mathematician or with Foolish Burial, and then after you did that, you want to draw the card.
Yep, and it... we see that being played differently as well. We saw it, for example, when I believe it was also Ruben earlier. Forgive me if that's incorrect. Who played it the opposite way around, where it was like, I want to have a Burning Abyss monster in my hand, so I want to play this before I tour guide, so I have the discard outlet that he wanted.
Yes. So he always thinking first before committing to that play.
Yeah, because both of these decks, Shaddoll and Burning Abyss, can get really, really complicated really, really fast, and you need to think through exactly how the turn is going to play out before you commit to it. At the same time, you can't take all the time in the world for that.
Right, so here we see the last two cards in hand for Ruben, and play is now back to, or not back, for the first time up to Marcello, the luckiest player in the tournament, something we said earlier, because he was 33rd after the after the Swiss portion of the event concluded, so that would have locked him out of the top 32 for understandable reasons if you're familiar with how numbers are working. However, there was one player who got knocked out of the top 32 because there was a match result entered erroneously. And after that, everybody after him moved one space up, and Marcello suddenly in the 32nd spot, going up against Patrick Reeder, the only undefeated player in the tournament. And, well, Curse of Anubis, he just lost right there and then got knocked out.
Yep, I really want Barberi to win because that would be quite a story for him. And we can actually get him a shirt saying, luckiest duelist here. You know, he can wear that to Milan if he decides to go.
All right, so here you can see that Marcello just set all of his cards, or half his cards that he had in his hand. He's now got Sinister Shadow Games, Face Down, Shadow Core, and Burst Rebirth. Back to Ruben, who did draw into Skarm, I think. Did he?
Yes. Okay, so Vanity's Fiend is going to cause a couple of problems here.
Yeah, Vanity's Fiend, a card we've been talking about quite a few times. At the moment, it doesn't seem to be showing up for you guys.
It's unfortunately one of those old ones we haven't quite. It's one of the ones that we've missed. It's one of the old ones. I do apologize for that.
So Vanity's Fiend, basically more or less the same effect as Vanity's Emptiness.
Yes, except one has 2400 attack and will beat you to death. I want to remember almost a famous UK player from way back when, Duncan Tang, used the same analogy when discussing the difference between Jinzo and Royal Decree, as I've never lost to 2400 direct attacks from Royal Decree. That was like the quote he was remembered for when people were having this big argument, and that just kind of like ended it right there when people were like, yeah, maybe Jinzo's better.
Yeah, maybe you do have a point, yeah. Although it takes a normal summon, which is a big deal in this fast-paced environment.
And it gets breakthrough skill, which is something that doesn't happen to your Vanity's Emptiness. So maybe there's more to that discussion than simply one hits you, the other one doesn't.
Right. So here we have Marcello's hand. It's got a super polymerization, compulsory evacuation device, which is not going to stay in his hand for long because that's where it doesn't do much. And Shaddoll Beast, Shaddoll Fusion, and Artifact Moraltach. Okay, we're going to see a Sinister Shadow Games flipped. As long as that Vanity's Fiend's in play, we're not going to see a Shaddoll Falco play. Okay, Shaddoll Dragon being added to Marcello's hand. That dragon, when it's flipped, can return a monster on the field back to its owner's hand, so it would be able to deal with the Vanity's Fiend. The compulsory evacuation is also another very solid answer. Unfortunately, both of these strategies require Marcello to pass a turn before he can get the most out of this. All right, so there you can see that Marcello's field has been improved quite a bit with more cards than before, of course. But Ruben just drawn into one of the cards that made all the difference in the match that we had him on earlier. It was indeed against Rafael Neven from the Netherlands, with those crucial trap stuns and Vanity's Emptiness, always shutting down Rafael's options at the very best of times.
Yes, being able to, he answered efficiently 3 artifact sanctums, which is just unbelievable, considering that you normally have to jump through hoops to deal with that card without, in some way, getting punished by it. Okay, so how does Marcello respond to this? He's
got the Dante and the Vanity's Fiend on the field, and this is his hand. And you were asking about Marcello, right?
Yeah, because he's got the compulsory evacuation and the dragon. I mean, so he can get rid of both of these monsters. The question is, how does he decide to do this?
Yeah, quite a few options here, and that's definitely one of the things we encourage you guys to do. To do when you're watching the stream, try to figure out what's going to be the next move of the player, because you can learn so much watching these guys, but you can learn even more trying to telegraph their moves.
Yeah, and then next time when you see somebody sort of starting to go through the same sequence, you'll be like, hold on, deja vu. I know how this works.
Yeah. Or if you are wrong, you will know for sure that you're wrong. I mean, yesterday I had this discussion after day 1 where we had some questionable moves like a bottomless trap hole being used against Winder. I had a discussion in between rounds, and Patrick Reeder, well, didn't make it to the top 16. However, he was the only undefeated player after Swiss. And he said, when the first time I played against Shaddolls, I was also trying torrential tribute on Winder.
Yeah, because it's just, people overlook it.
The big difference was he didn't do that at one of the largest events of the year.
Yeah.
He did that in his home when he was testing and preparing for one of these events, so he would avoid making that very same mistake when it counts the most, which is right here at this table in our feature match. So Marcello using Burst Rebirth, very hefty investment, 2000 life points. But for that, he gets a monster back from his graveyard and he special summons it in face down defense position. Now, if you've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh! 3 years ago, you might be wondering, why would I want to do that? I want to have it in attack position so I can attack with it or something like that. However, all of these Shaddoll monsters have flip effects and half of them are pretty strong.
Yep, Shaddoll Beast being excellent because it gets the card filtering and lets Marcello start getting through his deck, searching for those hyper-powerful the hyper-powerful cards like Super Polymerization or Blackluster Soldier, or even just his Shaddoll fusions if he hasn't already gotten to them.
Yep, so you can always get rid of the worst card in your hand and make sure that you're improving your odds. In this case, it was, at least according to Marcello, it was an Artifact Moraltach that he didn't really feel like I have much use for this, so he simply discarded it after drawing 2. So there's the Allure of Darkness that allows him to draw into yet more cards. The other cards in his hand, as you can see on the right-hand side, yeah, lots of disruption here with the Trap Stun and something to come back with Shaddoll Fusion. So now he's drawn into Felice and Shaddoll Hedgehog.
The Felice he can't normal summon a set, so that's just probably going to end up being fusion fodder a little bit later.
Right. And now he's going for Shaddoll Core.
Yep. Shaddoll Core, very good as can attack as a monster, can defend as a monster, and can also count as any attribute for a fusion summon.
Yep. And it's one of those cards that we only see every once in a while. It's not a so-called staple card in the Shaddoll archetype. It's something that players are still pondering over. Sometimes they run 1, sometimes they run 0 copies. I don't think I've seen more than 1 copy yet.
No, I've not seen more than 1 copy. One of the strengths is you can send it straight from the deck to the graveyard as it's a Shaddoll card with Construct, and then it activates and lets you get back your fusion immediately. But you don't see Core activated too much unless it's going to be using for a defense or pushing through the last bit of damage, because as a monster, you're not playing the card because it's a monster. That's just an added benefit to the card.
Yes, so here we go. Marcello, no surprise here, goes for his boss monster El Shaddoll Construct. And this way he was able to get rid of his Felice. Yes, exactly. So just like you telegraphed, basically. So Matt could be sitting on that table.
My life points would be a lot lower, I'll be honest.
So he got rid of that card, and that's what he's left with. So let's take another look at Ruben's hand here. He's got Mathematician, Graph, Scarm, Tour Guide, Vanity's Fiend. Very monster-heavy hand. In fact, as monster-heavy as it can get. Not what he wants, and a Trap Stun. Also not really something to fight back here.
This is really, really bad for Ruben, because he'll flip up his Trap Stun most likely, try to play out his hand with the special summons of his Burning Abyss monsters, and he's going to lose out to the Super Polymerization, which is like one of the most powerful cards in the Shaddoll deck. And Trap Stun won't stop that. I mean, it will stop Marcello using either the Breakthrough skill or his own Trap Stun, but...
Yeah, but Marcello might be quite happy to see the Trap Stun by his opponent getting activated here, because he's going to be like, yeah, now you're feeling secure and everything.
Now you're going to overcommit into the Super Polymerization.
Yeah, that seems like a very big opening that Marcello will have in just a second. Here is the Trap Stun that we said. Marcello checking his face down cards, trying to put his poker face on and indicating, oh, I got nothing, when in fact he has the nuts, so to speak. So what's next here? We got a special summon of Scarm and Gruff.
Yep. And this is going to be in preparation for an XE summon. Marcello, all he has to do here is time his Super Polymerization correctly.
Yeah, so that does seem to be a walk in the park for the Italian. Or isn't it? Like, is there any... how could you mess it up? When is the wrong time to activate it? Let's ask it this way.
Okay, so if you did it now, both of these monsters are being special summoned. So if you did it now, you'd take away a monster, but then Ruben could carry on with a normal summon, or he could perhaps play a third Burning Abyss monster if Marcello doesn't know it. So he's got to wait until his opponent... He wants to wait until his opponent does something with those Burning Abyss monsters. Okay, he's going for it now. I guess he could wait, but if it turns into Dante, then Dante will trigger.
Yeah, does he do it before the second Malebranche of the Burning Abyss hits the field.
Well, the special summon doesn't use a chain, I don't believe, so I'm not entirely sure where the graph is right now.
Let's check that real quick. This is easier than ever thanks to the problem-solving card text. All you have to do basically is look at the card text and check if there's a bracket in the sentence with the special summoning. And Sissy says, if you control no spell trap cards, you can special summon this card from your hand. There is no such thing as a chain in that situation, so it hits the field immediately. So it seems like Marcello was acting a little bit prematurely, wasn't he?
Yeah,
and
yeah, because the monster would have been on the field up. Maybe it was just positioning, and that had gone through, but it was just the positioning of the monsters that was being questioned. But to us, it kind of looked like Ruben was waiting for the Burning Abyss monster to resolve. But, you know, maybe it's just a misunderstanding.
So Ruben now has a Razor, the Storm Monarch card that the old school players will be very familiar with. And that means that Winder, one of the two boss monsters or one of the fusion monsters that the Shaddoll deck is playing, is biting the dust, ending up in the graveyard. And yeah, none of this seems to be good news for Marcello. I think there was a better way to play this.
Yeah, he goes for super polarization and Riser coming down. I mean, had he held back his super polarization, he can't fuse with the Wind Monarch. Although to him, he knew his opponent had Vanity's Fiend, but he'd have been fine with his opponent summoning Vanity's Fiend because Construct is already in play at that stage. So yeah, perhaps he read the follow-up of Riser, and that's why he super polymerization there.
Right. So now he goes for Shaddoll Falco, bringing back a monster, and this is a good setup for Marcello with Ruben just on 3,000 life points, which is really not a lot with these explosive decks. Or at least these decks have the opportunity to go explosive.
Yeah, I mean the one special summon from Marcello can easily equal 2,800 damage, so yeah, that's only 200 life point shy, and that's not even using a normal summon.
So now he's putting a lot of damage on the field by using a second Shaddoll Fusion in that game. And but he's using monsters from his side of the field, so that is kind of bad for him.
It's not the most viable way of getting it, but if it gets the job done, then...
Yep, in the end of the...
Oh, we're going to see the Volcasaurus close.
Ah, there we go. We haven't seen that in a little while. So Volcasaurus card you, well, should be familiar with if you're following our coverage, because we've seen it before this weekend. Allows you to detach one material to destroy one monster on your opponent's side of the field. Here we go. Here it is. And he also takes damage, and it can attack the same turn, but you have something else for that.
Yes, it can attack directly, but then you turn it. You can use it as a material to special summon Gaia, the Thunder Charger. And between the two of these monsters, it's quite easy to put over 5,000 damage. I mean, right there was 2,400 damage for the Volcasaurus, then 2,600 damage from the direct attack from Gaia. So that was 5,000 damage exactly.
So yeah, very strong
powerful
finish for Marcello. So in the end, it didn't really matter what he did before, and we're still not sure if it was the right play. However, well, he's gonna advance to the finals either way. He's not gonna complain. He's like, I don't mind if I played in the best way possible. All it counts is that I advanced to the finals. And
I think a lot of players would debate that, but ultimately Marcello is going to be like, I won the YCS, I don't care.
No, I think they will debate that when they are on the Twitch chat, but once they are in the feature match, their opinion will change momentarily.
Yes, when it's like, oh, you know what, I did win. So that's, I think that's the part that matters, everybody.
All right, so let's look at the side decks. We got, again, the Diffusion in Ruben's side deck.
Yeah, we're seeing the Light Imprisoning Mirrors again, Mystical Space Typhoon, Chain Disappearance, which will come in this matchup. 2 Noble Mana Crossout, not so effective. Diffusion, not... sorry, this is Ruben's deck, who is playing Burning Abyss. Let
yes.
me reverse my line of thinking.
Exactly. The Nobleman of Crossout, for example, is a pretty good card.
Yeah, the Noble Mana Crossouts are coming in, the Diffusions are coming in. I actually don't know what this last card is on the list.
Yeah, we got some Spanish cards here again.
I'll just pass one over to you.
In the meantime, let's take a look at Marcello's.
Yeah, so Marcello, in his side deck, has 1 Riser, 1 Mind Control, 1 Diffusion, 2 the Monarch Storm Force, 2 Mystical Space Typhoon, 1 Malevolent Catastrophe, 2 Trap Stun, 2 Chain Disappearance, 2 Raikou, 1 Rogeki. Changes appearance we're almost certainly going to see, as it's in there specifically for the Burning Abyss matchup. Trap Stun also probably coming in because it's a way of deploying your cards through your opponent's ridiculous back row. Malevolent Catastrophe also going to possibly come in, actually, because of the high back row, and your opponent attacking with Dante and suddenly sweeping their back row is very strong. Mystical Space Typhoon, presumably this comes in against decks that can play Light Imprisoning Mirror. I don't think he's going to side that in here. He knows his opponent's playing 3 Vanities Emptiness. In fact, most people are playing it anyway, so Mystical Space Typhoon likely to be held back for Shadow Imprisoning Mirror decks.
Right. In the meantime, my language skills told us that Canción Fúnebre de Estigia is Stygian Dirge.
Oh, right. Rick Cherry's favorite card. Otherwise,
exactly.
Otherwise, no. Rick Cherry was one of our players in Madrid. For those of you who missed that, he unfortunately fell on the receiving end of.
Yes, he added a Dimensional Fissure to the field, which is a very good side deck card against certain decks.
Against the Shaddoll deck, yeah.
Yes, and he was playing Tellarknights himself, but once Stygian Dirge was flipped, and he was denied all of his. Well, he couldn't perform any rank 4 Exceed summons because all of his monsters were suddenly rank 3 monsters. He was locked out of the game by his own card.
Yeah, the Dimensional Fissure was just making a bad situation worse, because then his Altairs was not getting him his D-nubs, which could have been thinning his deck out for him to get to the Mystical Space Typhoon. But what's history is history, and what's happening right now is a tour guide from the Underworld coming out from Ruben on his turn 1 play. Right,
we're still waiting for all the cards to be added to the respective player's hand. So we start with Marcello, who has a Mathematician, great opening, Shaddoll Hedgehog, 2 copies of Shaddoll Fusion, and an Artifact Sanctum. Ruben, on the other hand, like you said, started with the tour guide. He also has, that is one of the Malebranche of the Burning Abyss. He does have a Trap Stun. Ah, there we go. Oh, no, we don't. We don't go yet. Here we go. Book of Moon, Trap Stun, Serum, Malebranche of the Burning Abyss, Skarm, Malebranche of the Burning Abyss, and the tour guide. So, like you said, the tour guide came out, fetching another Malebranche.
Yep, it's a very strong turn 1 play. Getting Graph, Dante can then detach Graph, and then Graph can get you like Skarm or Seer or anything else. He elects to not use the effect at all, because if Dante gets taken off the field, Graph and Dante will trigger anyway. So he'd rather not send any cards from his deck to the graveyard and risk that just yet, and also heavily committing to the field this early might not be in his interest.
Right. So here is the Mathematician. No surprise here that this is the opening for Marcello, a card that we have seen both here and in Madrid quite a lot. Big discussion was, do I run Mathematician or Armageddon Knight? Armageddon Knight has the advantage that it's a dark monster, which can sometimes be a disadvantage when your opponent sides in Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. So the Dragon taking down Trap Stun.
Okay, so here we are. We're seeing the Book of Moon flipping the Dante face down, forcing Marcello into fusing with cards on his field or in his hand. This could be huge, because now Marcello suddenly thinks he's getting a free fusion, is now being forced to give up 2 cards from his hand, whittling his resources down unexpectedly. And the 2200 attack from Winder will not break through that 2500 defense. That is an excellent Book of Moon from Ruben.
Yes, and Marcello has nothing on his hand with a Shaddoll Fusion and Artifact Sanctum to well, change that anytime soon. The Dante is definitely going to do its damage here, and well, excellent play from Ruben.
Yeah, Ruben really catching Marcello off. He's saying, come on, take the bait, take the bait. Book of Moon.
Yes, it's also something that you don't expect to see, because the card is not as omnipresent as it once was. It was in every single deck list, and when I was typing up deck lists, I would start one Book of Moon. Those times are like long gone by, basically.
Yeah, frequently get asked a lot by players why Book of Moon remains a limited card when a lot of other trap cards aren't. Book of Moon can end up being problematic depending on the format, because it's in some cases better than trap cards, because you get the best of both worlds. You can use it in your own turn, you can use it in your opponent's turn, you can drop it from your hand in the middle of the battle phase, and it's so flexible that it has in the past caused trap cards to become more and more irrelevant. Many years later, Book of Moon is still a very good card, or perhaps not as quite as impactful straight up as it once was.
And Marcello drawing 2 more cards, but None of those are going to make a difference. He has given up his normal summon for the turn. He did one special summon already. He can go for another Shell Fusion, but...
Well, can only play one per turn.
There we go, yeah. So much for that.
So yeah, we're seeing sets the Artifact Sanctum and passes. I mean, the Sanctum can answer Dante, and...
So he does have some sort of defense with the Sanctum. The... what did we call it earlier? The Abyss Sphere on steroids.
Yes. Oh, the Forbidden Chalice. That's a really cool card for Ruben to have, because it'll allow him to answer the Artifact Sanctum.
Man, it's just sick. All of these answers in his deck, we've seen that before against Raphael Nevin. When he had not just the Trap Stuns, not just the Vanity's Emptiness, but also cards like Forbidden Chalice. His deck is stacked with answers, and that might be the secret ingredient that carried this Burning Abyss deck all the way to the semifinals.
We'll see how this plays out, but yeah, Marcello probably going to be tempted into going for that Artifact Sanctum to take out Dante. Graf will special summon a monster, which will be the one special summon per turn Ruben is allowed, if Ruben decides to use the Graf effect, of course, and Dante will add back the Graf to his hand. But then Ruben will be just left with a level 3 monster. So Marcello considers the option and decides to hold back the Artifact Sanctum.
Yeah, so Trap Stun getting sent to the graveyard, a Riser, and
there's a Skarm, Karma Cut, and Rise.
Karma Cut, it's not a Trap Stun, yep.
So the Skarm will trigger in the end phase, so that's a bonus card for Ruben, which feels pretty good, because when you activate Dante's effect, in most cases you're not depending on hitting blind Malabranch monsters,
yep.
Burning Abyss monsters, but if you do, that's profit.
Profit, yeah.
Or cash back, as we call it in England.
So here you go. Ruben commits more cards to the field, not that surprising, with that great backup of the Forbidden Chalice. And he can perform another Exceed Summon. And Marcello, he can't really do much now, can he?
Well, he's used his normal summon and a special summon this turn, and he can only use one special summon as long as that window's in play.
So here comes the attack of Dante, and there's the Artifact Sanctum, which
is, yeah, it's going to be outplayed by that card.
That's just so strong. So the Moraltar is going to gain 400, but its effects are going to be negated.
Yep, and since it's still Ruben's turn, he's just probably going to ignore the Moraltar for now.
He doesn't want to trade with Dante 1-for-1 to trigger the effect of Dante, now does he?
Well, no, he could. Yeah, he does get options of a replay. He could straight up trade, but he's going to take the window out so he can free up his special summon ability again.
Right. So he normal summoned one of these Malabranch, and one of the other one was special summon. That's his one special summon for the turn. That's the restriction that Winda is putting him under, basically. And this was the attack of Dante. Then he takes out the Mathematician. So the question is Dante's effect happening at the end of the damage step or at the end of the battle phase? And it is the end of the battle phase, which means since Ruben has switched it sideways, he has indicated by that move that he wants to advance to the end of the battle phase. At least that is what...
Ah, right, okay, I see.
That's Marcello is indicating here. He says, hey, if you switch Dante to... If you turn that card sideways, bro, your chance of attacking some more...
Oh, you ended your battle phase.
Yeah,
of
exactly.
course, Ruben's probably misunderstood that and thought it was at the end of the attack it switches to defense mode.
Yeah, it's also not battle step, it's battle phase. So what Marcello is claiming is actually correct. This is really bad luck for Ruben. Well, not really bad luck, but it is a misplay on his side.
Yeah, it is. It's misunderstanding his card. He's indicated something else to his opponent.
And like, the question is, can you blame Marcello for trying to take advantage of this? Because I don't think so. I mean, if somebody... This is a mistake that a player has made. He switched the card sideways, and by that he indicates that this effect is triggering. And since this effect is triggering at the end of the battle phase, well, we are, by definition, at the end of the battle phase.
Yeah, I believe they're trying to resolve this with the judges because Ruben's saying, well, obviously I wasn't anymore. I was going to attack with this. I thought it switched. And
Yes.
Marcello's saying, no, it doesn't do that. So,
Yeah, well, I gotta say, Marcello does have a point. Ruben, yeah, I think he is claiming, well, we all know that it's gonna switch sideways at the end of the battle phase. I just wanted to do it already so we don't forget about it, which is a pretty weak argument, in my opinion, but...
it will be down to the judge to decide how this situation plays out. But in this case, neither player... You can see both sides of the argument and how it could go either way. And this is part of the reasons that we have such skilled volunteers, is being able to navigate through these situations. You get asked, as a judge, you get asked so many rules questions, and people prepare when they're judging. They prepare for all of the different interactions of cards, and they don't consider the interaction of the people playing or the duelist playing. And for example, this situation right here is what we call a player management situation.
Yes.
So if you're a judge watching this, you can probably take notes from this and learn. Okay, so
Interestingly enough...
the judge there has decided to allow Ruben to continue the attack, despite him turning a Dante, which would have signaled the end of the battle phase.
Well, it also seems something else to keep in mind, that Marcello did not appeal the ruling of the judge, which means that he didn't make use of his chance to talk to the head judge of the event, who will then make a final ruling. So if you're not happy with the ruling that the judge has given you, and, well, if I were Marcello in that situation, I guess I would have done that, to be honest. You can just call over the head judge, and the head judge will make a final ruling.
I can't hold it against him for calling the judge on that one. When it's this far into the tournament, you expect your opponent to understand how their cards work.
Yep.
But at the same time, I can totally understand Ruben saying, "Oh, come on, you knew this was gonna happen."
Yeah, like if this happens at your kitchen table, there's no question about it.
Yeah, you're gonna let your friend like fix the issue.
You're gonna be like, yeah, whatever. But if you are at the semi-finals of a Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series, possibly the largest of the year, you can, well, become famous in your own right and become a YCS winner. You don't wanna give your opponent this opening. Like, if you have a chance to get an easy win, you take the easy win. That's how it works.
Yeah, and a couple of people may ask for the say perhaps Barberi was rule sharking, although I really don't believe in this situation he is. He's saying my opponent has indicated the end of the battle phase because he's activating a certain effect. It's different from trying to use a penalty or something and assign it to an opponent's action. But you know,
yeah,
these are situations as you're judging you get familiar with and learn how to deal with them and resolve them so the game can continue.
Yeah, as long as your intent is not to get a warning for your opponent, everything should be fine in calling a judge in these situations.
Yeah.
And well, yeah, there's a discussion on the Twitch chat about that, if that is rule sharking or not. And I wouldn't say that as rule sharking, to be honest.
Barberi, I believe, was fully within his right to notify a judge in that situation and say, well, this happens at the end of the battle phase, he's done this.
Yes, and I agree with that. Well, anyway, it's Marcello's turn now. He did draw a card for his Mathematician that got destroyed in battle. He did draw a second copy of Mathematician. He also got a Super Polymerization, Shaddoll Fusion, Hedgehog, and Dragon in his hand, so plenty of options here. And
yeah, he can move past this.
Yeah, and he has already activated one Shaddoll Fusion. The important thing is to not be too upset with what happened right here. Like, don't be beating yourself up and thinking, I would have won this game if the judge just ruled in my favor. You just have to keep your calm, focus on the moment, and make the most of it.
Yeah. So he's just going to keep his cool, carry on. He's playing the Shaddoll Fusion. He's sending one Shaddoll Beast. He's debating on the second card that he's going to send. It looks like he's hovering the Hedgehog. There's the Hedgehog. Yep. And he's committing to a El Shaddoll Winder. The Winder is not going to be able to destroy either of the Downward Magicians, because the Downward Magicians gain 200 attack for each XE material they have. But he now does control 2 level 5 monsters should he decide to go for the Volcasaurus play. Yeah,
that will be one option. And yesterday we have also seen some other level 5, rank 5 monsters that have been making some noise, haven't we?
Constellar Pleiades, however, that requires 2 level 5 light monsters, so we won't be seeing that.
What's with Armadis? I took a note of Armadis, but
it's this level 5 Synchro light monster.
No, it's yeah, Synchro. So we go. All right. Yes, that was in the very first round, a long time ago. So Marcello is now sitting in a interesting position with Alfred Moraltag and El Shaddoll Winder on the field, and here again is his hand.
To see if he's got any. He's got Artifact Durandal also in his extra deck as a potential option to go to. Yeah, it's Durandal or Volcasaurus. If he decides to use that chain, he has a bunch of cards in his hand, so he's got a whole bunch of different plays he could consider. The Dino Magicians are both dark monsters, so a Super Polymerization will not allow Marcello to get a construct in any way off of that, well, off of his opponent's monsters. However, he could use his own construct and his own Moraltag to make a construct if he wanted, but he's going to go into the Volcasaurus.
Again, yeah. This card is really proving key here for Marcello, and we haven't seen that that often this weekend, now have we?
Volcasaurus?
I don't think, like, this is like the third or fourth time only that I've seen the card.
Yeah, it's one of those, in very specific situations, it's extremely good cards. Whenever you find a window for it, there's a good chance that you want to go for it. But you see what happens here is from Volcasaurus, destroying the Dino Magician, it's going to trigger everything underneath it because they're all Burning Abyss monsters.
Yes, so Dante triggers, and what else did we have under that?
We had a Sir and a Skarm, I believe, and Dante himself.
So it looks like Ruben hasn't lost anything apart from some life points.
Yeah, he took a chunk out by the Volcasaurus, and the Volcasaurus can still attack. The only restriction is it can't attack directly, although we're most likely going to see that upgraded into a Gaia Charger, because the Gaia Charger will then have enough attack to take out something like Dante here.
Yeah, Marcello needs to find something to, well, dismantle his opponent's field, or at least like reduce the number, those two monsters. He doesn't want to stare down this somewhat threatening field for much longer.
Yeah, Marcello hasn't used his normal summon for the turn because if we remember, he started with the Moraltag, and he also started with the Winder.
Yep.
So here's his one normal summon. He considers.
Does
he do it? Yep.
Yep. Shaddoll Falco.
Yep. And Super Polymerization. Yep.
There we go.
Discarding a regular Shaddoll Fusion.
That is interesting, isn't it? I mean, he's still got one more copy in hand, so he's feeling confident that he's not going to activate 3 of them in this game. And he's using his opponent's Dante.
Yeah.
Together with his own Falco.
And he gets a construct, and he sends the Shaddoll Core to the graveyard to add back the fusion that he discarded.
So he didn't really lose anything here. Seemed like a very good choice. And this is his new hand after all of these effects have resolved. And this is his field with Volcasaurus, Super Polymerization, Shaddoll Falco, and El Shaddoll Construct. Now the Construct, the Gaia Charger. So he replaced the Volcasaurus with the Gaia Charger, attacking over the Downward Magician, and attack with the Construct followed, because this way he can do more damage.
Yep. Ruben is going to accumulate quite a few cards off of these Dante triggers, so he's going to be able to. He has one of each Burning Abyss monster in his hand. Let's see how he gets through this. And 2 cards being added to the Spell and Trap zone: Chain Disappearance and Shaddoll Fusion. And Chain Disappearance is so good against this deck, we might see it flip against the Tour Guide, or perhaps we'll see it if a Dante is summoned.
Right, so there is the Tour Guide. That
it's added to his hand from the effect of Skarm. It's the end phase of.
Yes. But there's a very good chance that this is going to be Ruben's next summon here. And he's got a Vanity's Emptiness, but the problem is his opponent already assembled his field. So
Too little, too late.
Exactly. So Ruben is not sitting in a very good position here. He can go for the Tour Guide, but even so, well, the problem with Tour Guide is, like we said, there's a Chain Disappearance on the other side of the field, face down.
Yep, and then he'll be forced to make some kind of play by special summoning his monsters. The Gaia Charger is piercing, so it's going to make it quite difficult for him to just set a monster and try and wait through a turn.
Yeah, it's the Gaia Dragon for you guys.
Yeah. This was really popular when Volcasaurus first came out in the premium collection tin, quite a long time ago actually. And Gaia it was very big in the wind-up format when you could do it with wind-up Magician, wind-up Shark, then summon Volcasaurus through various combos, and you had Gaia Charger to add more to that.
So Ruben is not going for the tour guide plan. Maybe a read, but I don't think he's going to expect a card from the side deck being introduced here.
Well, he may have special summoned that Sir. I didn't see how it got put into play. If he special summoned the Sir, then he could still use his normal summon later on. He's hovering what appears to be a wind-up Zen Mines.
A card that we haven't seen in quite a while. There is the next special summon. He's still acting like these special summons are using the chain by putting them first on the field and then moving them upwards.
Yeah, it's a little bit misleading. I don't think it's intentional.
No, I don't think that at all.
Because his opponent could still use Solemn Warning, so he has to give his opponent an opportunity to.
Maybe that is what he's trying to indicate here. Yeah, that's a chance. So now he has access to all those powerful rank 3 Exceed monsters in his extra deck. And he's got a few, like we just pointed out, the Zen Mains, of course, the Dante. He's also running 3 copies of Dante. And Ghost Trick Alucard that can deal with face-down cards on the field.
It's going to be interesting to see how he decides to do this.
Right, we just received word that the other semi-final has concluded, and Dominik Borowski from Austria has advanced to the finals. Congratulations on that. Sascha Fabian out of the competition, went very, very far, but in the end, Dominik Borowski proved to be too much of an obstacle.
And there are no UK players left in the YCS competition.
Yeah. I'm so used to that, I don't even point it out anymore.
Oh. You win a World Cup and you're just full of confidence now, aren't you?
Well, also no German players remaining, so I should be the one to be talking here.
Well, Austria, they speak German, don't they? So it's basically a win for you guys.
In a way, yeah. It's very interesting when, for example, when the football games are happening, sometimes the Austrians are like, oh, we're having such a strong rivalry with Germany. And I also asked all of my German friends, hey, do you feel the same way? And they're always like, no, we don't take Austrians seriously. And I was feeling the exact same way. I was like, oh, so they have a rivalry. That's interesting because I don't know about that rivalry. But so all my Austrian friends are gone now. There is the chain disappearance for the tour guide.
Yep.
Oh no, it wasn't for the tour guide. It was for the
Graph.
Graph, yes. Oh, that's even better than for the tour guide, isn't it?
Yeah. In this case, it takes out the 3 graphs. I mean, there was only 1 left in the deck. It's just Ruben is just in a really horrible position. There's nothing he can really do with these remaining cards.
I mean, he's just summoned 2 monsters, and he does have a Vanity's Emptiness to stop his opponent from summoning any more monsters, but you have to keep in mind his Ghost Trick Alucard. It just has 1,800 attack, so it's anything but a beat stick. Whereas his opponent, Marcello, is controlling a construct with 2,800 attack. On top of that, it can attack whatever it wants, and it just destroys it. And a Gaia Dragon with 2,800 attack as well. So Marcello is sitting in a very, very good position here.
Yeah, you can take a look. He's got his hand on his chin because he's just trying to respond, but he knows it's
he goes for a fusion, but that's the Vanity's Emptiness. And you can tell by Marcello leaning forward, immediately doing the calculations, how much life points do I have to reduce? And you can tell he's looking at his cards, pointing at the attack of Gaia Dragon with 2,600. But I don't think he can finish the game just now.
The question is, well, he's got a tour guide there that was normal summoned, right? That's the card that's in play. So yeah,
yes.
The construct would actually inflict 1,800 points of damage when attacking it. Something with construct is you can block it with special summon monsters and not take damage because its effect activates as soon as it attacks something. That was special summon.
Right.
So that should be 1,800 plus the damage from Gaia Charger.
That is a 2,800 over the 1,800 of Ghost Trick Alucard. That means that's another 800. And that should be enough.
That should be enough. And
Marcello is also indicating that by, what are we waiting for? Look at my score pad. Well, there is a chance that there's a misunderstanding about the life points of both players, but I don't think that is the case here.
Okay,
So
yeah, he's showing him the math, which is...
1,000 here. That is...
it's a little bit less than 1,000, 800, because it's 26 versus 1,800.
All right. And then...
1,800 there.
Yeah, 1,800 left, but that is exactly... 1,800 would be exactly what the Shaddoll construct would be doing, attacking over a tour guide. So... Now it seems like the judges have to get involved. Yes.
There's a dispute in life
Exactly.
points.
So what I guessed, both players are not 100% on the same page here. So now we have to see what exactly the official life points are.
Yeah, well, I'm going to trust the guys standing behind that have been doing the life points as the app goes along, but I imagine this will be explained to the players and they'll come to the conclusion. Unless something's missed.
They have agreed on Marcello winning the match and advancing to the finals. Congratulations to Marcello Barberi from Italy, luckiest player at YCS London 2014.
Yep. He may very well, from a man who was not even supposed to be here.
In the top 32, yes.
Stomping through last year's champion and possibly claiming the title for himself.
Yes. Quite the show he put on. Ruben Lima has so many answers in his deck, but this time he never had a chance to get in this strong position where he then could back up his field with all those disruptive cards.
Yeah, he couldn't put down his big guys and then set up a trench of horrible things your opponent has to try and go through while your big monsters beat them. He never got that opportunity. Marcel just taking that game the 2-0.
Yes. So obviously both of these players know exactly what their decks were supposed to do. We have a Shaddoll deck in the finals. I think the other finalist, who we announced earlier, Dominik Borowski from Austria, is also playing Shaddoll. So it's going to be a Shaddoll mirror match, which is not that surprising when you look at the numbers that Shaddoll has put up this weekend.
Yeah, what is 306 copies, 306 of those
Initially
decks were in the competition. They made up 40% of the top 32, 49%, wasn't it?
Yes. So
it's not surprising to see them going all the way through.
Yeah, at this point in time, they just crushed the competition by sheer numbers. There's just like so many Shaddoll decks that even if you take out 2 out of the equation, there is a third one coming up, and it's going to show you, well, that it might be better or that it doesn't draw into any dead cards, basically.
Yeah, but don't lose faith. We did see a Satello Knight going all the way into top 8. We're playing in Performer Pal, the Wipe. I can't even remember what it's called. It's a snake, and it's a Performer Pal.
White snake.
Yeah, and we also saw an Evil Swarm player making it quite deep into the competition.
Yes. So there are lots of ways to beat Shaddoll. The question is, can you beat them consistently? Because that is what most of the known players have been saying. There are ways to beat it, but I want to do it consistently. I want to be making sure that over the course of 11 rounds in the Swiss and 5 more rounds in the top 32, I need to beat them all the time.
And the big problem is if you build a deck solely to beat Shaddoll, you are going to run into Burning Abyss. It made up half the numbers of the Shaddoll deck, so you need to be able to answer both decks.
Yes. All of that will change when the new challengers will be released.
The whole system may shift. Perhaps players will shift for a little while and then go back to Shaddoll. You know, how the format develops, that'll be down to you guys and what you discover in your testing.
Yes, it's going to be a triangle according to some of the top players I have been speaking to this weekend. They said that Clifford, the new archetype, is going to beat Shaddoll, going to make sure that they can't be that successful anymore.
Yeah, Clifford Tool is very, very powerful pendulum card. Searching for more cards at small cost of 800. A deck that can main deck Skill Drain, which then actually makes all of the downsides on your monsters disappear.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful deck.
Yes. And it is also the first deck that is taking advantage of the pendulum summon mechanic.
Yeah, we've had pendulums in the game for a while. A lot of people theorized playing splashing in the pendulum engine using Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon with Time Gazer and Stargazer Magicians. But that didn't really take off. So we've had these zones in play that are just not being used at the moment, and I expect that to change after next weekend.
It reminds me quite a lot of when the Exceed monsters first came out, because at the very beginning, when there were like 3 or 4 Exceed monsters, everybody was like,
Gachi Gachi, Brachiosaurus.
Yeah, they don't have
Utopia.
Utopia. Yeah, they don't have much of an effect on the metagame, especially not on the competitive scene, but with more Exceed monsters being released, well, wind-up Zen-mains was a big game changer, for example.
That was like considered the best Exceed monster at that point.
At the time, yeah. And with Tour Guide opening so many doors, like you had Levier and Leviathan.
Yeah, and you had Dino, then you got the Dino Rabbit build, which actually came out about the same time as MI, so I suppose that's more contested. But yeah, you had Lagia, Tour Guide, Levier, opponent handshake. That's I spoke to many a player that goes, oh, he had Tour Guide.
Yeah, he had Tour Guide. That was like, can you sum up
Rabbit.
the game? Well, he had Tour Guide, yes.
Yeah, Rabbit Tour Guide.
Yeah, so that is what happened quite a while ago, but a lot has happened since then. At the moment, what was the name of the set? Duelist Revolution?
Duelist Revolution, Pot of Duality, Solemn Warning, Scrap Dragon. There was a lot of good stuff in D-Rev.
Yes. And what I was getting at is Duelist Alliance is, of course, the set where all of these new archetypes that are currently dominating the scene have been released. So you may want to revisit that set and check it out, because that's been one of the best releases we've had in a long while.
It's changed so much. It's been a really, really successful set. Lots of people liking it. I know that the top decks are now starting to get a bit of hatred, because as you see them more and more, it can become frustrating. But remember, there's some more releases around the corner and things are most likely to change.
Right. We do have some more time to talk about things that have been going on at London, because our technical staff isn't quite sure to show you some of these amazing commercials that I know that you're just waiting to see. What we can do is I can finish my story from early on.
Okay. All right, let me lean back in this chair. Go on, tell me the story.
It's story time, yes. So we were at the World Championship, and I said it was very interesting to talk about these players from all those different nations, just like in the top 32 of the European Championship or any European tournament where you have so many different languages that are being spoken.
Yeah.
And so I'm speaking to the South Korean player with a translator, translating it into Japanese first, going into South Korean. The interview was a little bit weird because you had to ask some generic questions to all the competitors. And one of them was, well, did you expect to make it to the World Championship? And then your answer, your question, and that is your question. They translate it to Japanese, they translate it to Korean, and you can tell his body language is like, and he's about to say something. It's just one word. I don't speak Korean. They started translating it. I'm like, I got that. And like, it's all right. Like if he's shaking his head, I know. Okay, he didn't expect that. And so over time, you just expect half of these Asian players, because we always needed a translator. Nothing against the Asians. I love them. Very nice people, in fact. And none of them was speaking any English, like whatsoever. And then I'm coming up interviewing the competitor from Singapore. And at this point, I'm just so used. And then I'm starting to question him something, and there were like 3 people around him. I just look at them and expect them to give me a translation of the question so he can reply. But instead, he replies straight away. I'm looking at him and answering like the second question. He replies straight away. And then I'm like, I just got a question, which is not for the coverage, just out of curiosity. How come that you speak like perfect English? He looks at me like, what do you mean? And then he says, it's our first language. Because in Singapore, English is, in fact, the first language. I had
that.
Yeah.
I actually didn't know that. But
I thought it was a lot more hilarious, because it seems like a lot of people don't know that. But in that situation, I felt so well out of it. I was like, I just wanna disappear and do like a magic trick or something.
Oh.
That happened.
I thought Anders Cole's English was fantastic.
No, this is
it's just because he does speak English.
Yes, this is the worst thing that ever happened to me doing coverage in all of those years. I just felt so ashamed of myself. And
well, I just learned something, and I didn't make the same mistake, so I don't feel so bad for that.
Yeah, there's an advantage for that. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's my worst coverage story. But it will serve me well if I ever travel to Singapore.
Yeah, if you go, you know you're going to be okay.
All right. So if you've just tuned in, let's recap. YCS London, 1,195 players. Just 5 short of the 2,000. A little bit less than last year. But then again, it's very hard to put in these numbers year after year. We have seen a lot of interesting stuff this weekend. We have a con-exclusive playmat, for example, that has only been given away at this particular event.
Yes, it was you were able to buy it. It was the Shooting Quasar mat you've probably seen in many of the little clips that we've been showing you. They sold out lightning fast. I think they had like 20 left by Saturday
Yeah,
morning.
Carl has been in this business. Carl, the owner of Hazem Games, has been in this business for like 15 years. He knows everything about TCGs, I gotta say. And so he says, okay, I think I'm gonna sell like 250 of these, something like that.
Yeah.
And yesterday, 750 were produced, and at the end of the day yesterday, he was left with 150.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, 150. I just saw a
Something
small
like
little
that.
stack.
Or
of
maybe
them.
even smaller. I'm not even sure, but that's what I remember. So, big surprise and a big success as well. We've also been doing demos at that stand over in the other room, and after people have been either out of the game for a long time, they're like, what are these black cards? Is there something wrong? Is that a misprint? And no, that's an
That's an
Exceed.
Exceed,
Yeah. And they have been seeing what's happened in the last few years of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because so much has happened in this game.
Yeah, it's been a very long journey since that very first series of the anime aired. We went through that, GX, 5Ds, Zexor.
Right.
Arc 5 is just starting in the other region.
Just Sasha Fabian, who we had in the semifinals, he just got knocked out in the semifinals. We had him in the top 8 match. He did make the top 8 before in Milan 2011, and he was playing Plant Synchro back then.
Ah,
So
that deck.
there weren't even any Exceed monsters around at that time, and so much has changed since then. So we've whittled down our field from 1,000, almost 1,200 initially, down to 256 at the end of day 1. All of these guys had put up a 5-3 record, and we have seen some of the household names falling victim to that, that threshold that they had to reach. Stefano Mimoli, 2-time World Championship competitor, did put up a 5-3, but his tiebreaker wasn't good enough, so he didn't make the cut.
Yeah, it can happen to everyone. I mean, you've got to keep practicing up. The format's constantly changing. Some players are very, very good, but if you don't keep up, you can fall behind to another guy, because just the way formats work, you've got some players that are format-specific players. This is what I found over time, that are very, very good when a particular format rolls around. For example, you're telling me Patrick Reeder
feels very comfortable.
Very, very good in a controlling long grind-out format. And then you've got other players that are generally consistent across. They're consistent across everything, but they don't necessarily excel in any particular format.
We've talked to Luke Quincy earlier after his match in the top 16, if I remember correctly, and him and his brother Jake, they are testing together. And I said, how come that both of you are not playing the same deck? And Luke just immediately, he didn't have to think about it. He says, my brother and I, we are very different players. He likes explosive, aggressive decks. I like a more controllish approach where you take your time. And that's why Jake went with Burning Abyss with great success this weekend.
Yep.
And Luke went for the Taylor Knights, also with great success.
Even more success, you
Even
could say.
more success, yes. So where Jake got knocked out in the top 32, Luke advanced to the top 16. We've seen other players. Peter Gross, most successful European player so far. Claudio Kirchmeier.